Hey, what's up? Tim and Cant here. In this video, I'm going to take a look back to a few times in the 90s when pop and rock acts threw caution to the wind and put out some absolute hardcore wickedness. This is going to include obscure singles, unexpected remixes, and B-side bangers, so let's check them out. First up, we have the one and only E17. That's right, 1992 wasn't just about giant raves, the UK boy band explosion was just kicking off too. E17 were put together by Pet Shop Boys ex-manager Tom Watkins as a more streetwise variation on the winning Take That formula, and their first single, House of Love, was inspired by the dance music of the time and features guitar stabs, epic choirs, and freaking apocalyptic alarms. Mother Earth, she's on overload. One more war and she might explode. Fair enough, lads, but if you're a hardcore connoisseur, you'll be more interested in the Wet Nose versions remixed by none other than Suburban Bass's Austin Reynolds and Dave J, who were responsible for the early Future Assassins releases on Subbass and Boogie Times. The Wet Nose dub is an instrumental version of this tune, a rolling 130 BPM hardcore groover, which is a worthwhile listen for fans of the uplifting early Suburban Bass sound. In the second half of the 20th century, the carry-on movies were a ubiquitous part of British culture, and between 1958 and 1978, 30 of these bawdy, lascivious comedies made their way to the silver screen and Saturday afternoon telly.
Oh, what a lovely looking pair!
You took the words right out of my mouth.
In 1992, the franchise was revived with the poorly received Carry On Columbus, presumably to commemorate the 500th anniversary of 1492 for some reason. Of course, the movie needed a spin-off single, and none other than ex-Sex Pistols manager Malcolm McLaren and new wave bassist Lee Gorman were drafted to create it. Being 1992, it was a commercial rave affair featuring guitar stabs, epic choirs, etc, etc, but it's the more hardcore Android mix that's of interest to underground music lovers. Clocking in at a healthy 142 BPM, it's got sick mentasms, kick-in MCG breakbeats and gated alarm sounds, so congrats Carry On Columbus, all is forgiven. Before creating one of the biggest video game series in history, Grand Theft Auto, the developer then known as DMA Design had a hit with the Lemmings games. Being the early 90s, of course, the property required a spin-off single, and KLF collaborators Ian Richardson and Nick Kohler were assigned the task of creating a Lemmings-inspired pop single. Being 1993, the pop version features guitar stabs, epic diva vocals, and samples from the Amiga version of the game. Better watch out, there's a lemming about. However, the Hamster Jam mix is a stripped-back rave affair with stomping techno beats, kid and play breaks, and weirdly enough, the piano breakdown from Agent Orange's sounds a bit flaky. One might not imagine that folk rock crust kings the Levelers could have any kind of crossover with dance music, but even if you're not a fan of their music, you've got to give them kudos for being one of the few high-profile musical acts, including Ortega, Dreadzone, The Prodigy and Pop Elite itself, to oppose the heinous Criminal Justice Act back in 1994. And yes, unbelievably, there is a dance remix of one of their tracks from 1991, devised by none other than Terence Jones, aka MC Juice, The Chocolate Prince, and Nino. Yes, it's the production house legend behind the house crew Euphoria, Nino's Dream remix, and he's turned the Levelers one way into a funky 114 BPM baggy banger with funky breaks, chopped up fiddle licks, and bouncy analog bass. Another pop mix undertaken by Jones is the Nino's Liquid Steel remix of St. Etienne vocalist Sarah Cracknell's Any More from 1996, a 140 BPM breakbeat fest with some silky smooth jazz chords that feels like a dinner party approved take on the Nino's Dream vibe. It's cool! We return back to 1992 and the feel-good hit of the summer, Please Don't Go by KWS. A poppy dance KC and the Sunshine band cover, Please Don't Go was enjoyed by basically everyone, but there was a surprise on the single release, two banging hardcore tracks in the form of Game Boy and Collision. Game Boy features about 1 million mashed up rave stabs and shocks the beat piano, paired with some stomping techno drums. and Collision gets busy with sinister acid lines, a crazy sweet P breakbeat, and yet more in-your-face stabs. He knows how many pop lovers were radicalized by these undercover slammers. The Lightning Seeds brand of middle-of-the-road pop was a big hit with the general public back in the 90s, and the Turtles cover, You Showed Me, was featured on the soundtrack to the cinematic classic Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery. Because it was 1997, You Showed Me received an atmospheric drum and bass reworking by DJ Pulse and Professor Stretch. There's even an instrumental version on the single, so you could drop the Lightning Seeds in the rave without anyone being the wiser. DJ Pulse remixed a few unusual acts in the 90s, and I'm a big fan of his takes on Hoover, a cool track by Belgian trip hoppers 2 Wiki, and The Future's Overrated by electro rock act Arcana. He also remixed the little-known act TDF, aka Total Dysfunctional Family, which was a D&B and downtempo supergroup comprising Eric Clapton and Simon Climie of Climie Fisher. Crazy! Incidentally, Pulse and Stretch also remixed Crazy by Mark Morrison of Return of the Mac fame. Do you remember Stakka, Bo? The Swedish hip-hopper had a big hit with Here We Go in 1993, but in 1996 he put out the less well-known Soft Drum, which came complete with a remix by Peanut Planet, aka Seba, Low-Tech and MC Sandor. The Peanut Planet Cocktail Mix is a loungy, atmospheric D&B affair, very much in the vein of the Seba and Low-Tech Good Looking Records releases from around that time, albeit with some vocals courtesy of Mr. Bo himself. Do you remember when Urban Cookie Collective released a slammin' Amen D&B cover of Oasis's Champagne Supernova and it immediately got cancelled? Probably not, but it happened. Pete Tong played it on his Radio 1 show in 1996, and that was basically the last anyone heard of it, presumably due to one or more lawyers getting involved. Weirdly enough though, it did finally get a full digital release in 2021, so these days you can check it out for yourself in full. Probably the best known track on this list to hardcore rave fans is Annie Lennox's Little Bird from '92, a catchy tune that's been sampled on D&B tracks such as Mathematics, Feelin' and Camo and Crooked's You Cry. What we're interested in here though is the Enjoy remix, which is a raved up breakbeat banger that gave us a taste of what was to come from their awesome Drumstruck and Strength EPs. Top stuff. In 1992, rave legend NRG created a monster with his track I Need Your Lovin', the Real Hardcore mix. This was essentially a remix of his previous track, The Real Hardcore, from the Feel the Fury EP, and it turns the corgi sampling section of that into the main meat of the tune. I Need Your Lovin' was a giant rave smash and saw official remixes from the likes of CJ Bolland and Space Cube, and a cheeky unofficial reworking on the first Naughty Naughty release. Another, less well-known mix of the track is an official Corgis release. In 1993, the Corgis re-released Everybody's Gotta Learn Sometime with official remixes by NRG. The Berlin mix is my fave, and is basically a 93 version of I Need Your Lovin' with some extra dark side flavour and a mashed up stab breakdown that sounds wicked. This release also features a selection of remixes by DNA, aka Neil Slateford and Nick Batt of Sonic State fame. Big up Nick! Keeping with the West Country vibes, Jesus Jones are an alternative rock band from the gorgeous Bradford-on-Avon who had hits in the early 90s with tracks like International Bright Young Thing and Right Here, Right Now. In 1993, they were remixed by none other than The Prodigy in one of the Prodigy's final breakbeat hardcore outings. With chopped up breaks, rumbling bass and some truly nutty bleep riffs, this remix has a little touch of production house flavour. The single also has a couple of Aphex Twin remixes for good measure, giving you a balanced diet of electronic insanity. Yet another alternative rock act, Therapy, seemed like another unlikely subject for a dance floor remix, but they were remixed in 1995 by, yes, Photek, who took Loose, a track that really had no business in being remixed into D&B, and turned it into a psychedelic, atmospheric slammer that utilised the vocal, guitar licks, and feedback from the original as the building blocks of an amazing new creation. It's an incredible feat because the track fits perfectly into the forward-thinking D&B of the 90s, but it's clearly a remix of the original and one of Photek's best tracks in my opinion to boot. Arguably, acts like Pendulum have created a more sustainable fusion of rock and drum and bass, but for my money, Loose Remix is the pinnacle of rock D&B fusion. Also worth noting here's the Grooverider remix of Rollins Band's The End of Something, which he used to play on his Radio 1 show. Unfortunately, the CD single release appears to be a mispress, and what's labelled as the Grooverider remix is just the LP version again.
This audio is taken from a radio rip on SoundCloud, which I'll link in the video description.
Finally, it's time for some UB40 business. That's right. In 1993, the Midlands-based reggae crew had a #1 hit with I Can't Help Falling in Love with You, a cover of the song made famous by Elvis Presley. And this was featured on the soundtrack to the movie Sliver, a voyeuristic erotic thriller starring Sharon Stone and Billy Baldwin. Pretty weird choice if you ask me, but not as weird as the B-side to the single, which is just a straight-up jungle banger called Jungle Love. This is the real business too. Pitched Valley of the Shadow breaks, chipmunk vocals, dark side stabs, and as you'd expect, heavyweight reggae bass lines. Big up to my school chum and fellow Octomед enthusiast Ruben Cornell for playing this to me back in the day. You can check his videos out on Native Instruments channel, FYI. I later discovered this was by no means UB40's only foray into jungle, as the old school label Rough Tone Recordings was a project by UB40 member Earl Faulkner, together with trumpet player Patrick Tenue and sound technician Jerry Parchment. You might remember Rough Tone from such releases as LSD and Swanee, Roughneck Business, and EQP's early jungle anthem Crackman. In fact, EQP was Faulkner, Tenue and Parchment themselves, so UB40's jungle credentials are well beyond reproach. Another interesting UB40 track is their 1992 collaboration with 808 State, 1 in 10, a tune which I've never heard anyone discuss ever. Back in the day, I assumed all the breaks and bass were the work of 808 State, but listening again these days, I wonder if those elements were all UB40 and just the techno side of things was taken care of by 808 State. In any case, it's another cracking tune, well worth checking out for those into rave obscurities. Okay, that's more than enough train spotting for one video. Thanks for watching. There's a playlist of tracks in the description, and if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I'll catch you later. Peace.